I was 71 when I realized the loudest applause of my life had come from people who never bought a ticket. They showed up for curtain calls they never witnessed, claimed front row seats to performances they slept through. And when the lights finally came up, when my knees gave out and my body could no longer hold a single arabesque, they vanished like smoke through a stage door I had held open for decades. My name is Elizabeth Harris. Once upon a time, I was a prima ballerina for American Ballet Theatre. I danced Giselle at Lincoln Center. I flew through Swan Lake in Paris. My name was printed in playbills from New York to San Francisco, and for 30 years I lived inside the kind of beauty most people only dream about. But ballet is a young woman's game, and when your body starts to betray you, when your tendons snap like old rubber bands and your feet scream every time you rise on point, the world stops watching. The curtain falls, the applause fades, and you are left standing in an empty theater, wondering who you are when the music stops. I retired at 52. That was 19 years ago. 19 years of living alone in a small rental house in Stamford, Connecticut, teaching beginner ballet twice a week at a community center that smells like old gym mats and regret. My studio overlooks a parking lot. My students are mostly 7-year-olds in tutus their mothers bought on Amazon. It is not Lincoln Center, but it is something. It is movement. It is breath. It is the only language I have ever spoken fluently. I have 2 children, Michael and Clare. I raised them between rehearsals and tours, between surgeries and comebacks. I sold my engagement ring to pay for Michael's first year at Harvard. I turned down a solo tour in Europe when Claire spiraled into depression at 16 and refused to eat for 3 months. I was there. I was always there. And when they grew up and built lives in Boston and Chicago, lives filled with careers and spouses and children I rarely see, I told myself it was fine. I told myself that sacrifice was love, that distance was natural, that silence was just the sound of them finally being okay without me. I was lying. 3 weeks ago, I got a phone call that split my life in half. Margaret Keane was dead. Margaret. My choreographer. My mentor. The woman who taught me how to turn pain into poetry, how to make my body say things my mouth never could. She was 81. She had been sick for 2 years, and I had been the one taking care of her, driving her to chemo, reading to her when her eyes got too tired, holding her hand in a hospice room that smelled like lavender and death. She had no family, no children, no husband, just me. And when she died, her lawyer called and told me she had left me something, a house. Not a mansion, not some sprawling estate overlooking the ocean. A modest 2-bedroom cottage on the Connecticut shoreline in a town called Guilford, pale blue shutters, a wraparound porch, a view of Long Island Sound that made my chest tighten the first time I saw it. It was small, it was perfect, and for the first time in 19 years, I felt like I had a place that was mine. I called Michael first, told him about Margaret, told him about the house, told him I was planning a small housewarming in 2 weeks. Nothing fancy, just family, just us. He said he had a conference in Seattle. He would try to swing by afterward. Maybe. I called Claire next. Same story, different script. She had the kids that weekend. Her husband had a work thing, maybe next month. I hung up the phone and stared at the cottage, at the porch where I imagined us sitting together, drinking wine, watching the sunset. At the kitchen where I imagined cooking for them, the way I used to when they were small. I stared at that house and felt something crack open inside my chest. And then I did something I had not done in years. I fought back. I pulled out my phone, took a photo of the cottage, golden hour light spilling across the porch, the ocean glittering like broken glass in the background. I posted it on Instagram, 1 picture. 1 caption. New chapter, new home, grateful beyond words. I had 11,000 followers, old fans, dance students, people who remembered when my name meant something. Within an hour, the comments flooded in. Beautiful. You deserve this. What a stunning place. Within 2 hours, my phone rang. Michael, Mom, I saw your post. The house looks incredible. Listen, I talked to Rachel. We can move some things around. We will come this weekend. I want to see it. I want to celebrate with you. I smiled. Said nothing. An hour later, Claire called. Same energy, same sudden urgency. Mom, the house is gorgeous. I feel terrible. Let me make it up to you. Please, let us come. Let us be there. I listened to her voice. That familiar pleading tone she used when she wanted something, when she needed me to fix something, to pay for something, to show up for something. And for the first time in my life, I did not bend. I said yes, but I did not mean it the way they thought I did. Because I had just inherited a stage, and I was about to perform the most important piece of my life. I taught my body to bleed for art. Turns out I also taught my children how to walk away from blood. They arrived on Saturday morning, Michael in a rental BMW, Claire in her husband's Lexus, both of them dressed like they were attending a business lunch, not visiting their mother. They hugged me on the porch, complimented the view, asked where the bathroom was. It felt exactly like I expected. Polite, distant, transactional. I smiled, made coffee, told them to settle in, told them I had something to show them. But first, I needed to find it. I spent Thursday night tearing through boxes I had not opened in years. Old costumes, faded playbills, programs from performances I could barely remember. And then, buried beneath a stack of rehearsal notes, I found it. A VHS tape, labeled in Margaret's handwriting, Elizabeth. Final performance. October 1987. My hands shook as I held it. I had not watched this in 38 years, had not been able to, because that night was not just my final performance. It was the night I walked off stage and never came back. I was 33, at the peak of my career, dancing Odette in Swan Lake at Lincoln Center. My name above the title, critics calling me one of the greatest of my generation. And I was 3 months pregnant with Michael. No one knew, not the company, not the director, not the audience filling every seat in that theater. I danced through nausea, through exhaustion, through the kind of fear that only comes when you know you are about to lose everything you have ever worked for. I finished the performance, took my bows, and 2 weeks later, I resigned. Because ballet does not wait for motherhood. Ballet does not forgive pregnancy. And I chose my child over my career. I chose Michael. I chose them both. I had the VHS converted to digital, uploaded it to YouTube as a private link, and Friday night, I sent it to Michael and Claire with one message. Watch it, then come see me. I did not tell them what it was, did not explain, just sent the link and waited. Saturday morning, they showed up. Not out of guilt, out of curiosity. I could see it in their faces, the confusion, the discomfort. They had watched a woman they barely recognized flying across a stage, bending physics, making 2,000 people hold their breath. Michael spoke first. Mom, I had no idea you were that good. I looked at him, at his expensive watch, at his clean hands that had never bled for anything. I was better than good. I led them into the living room, but it did not look like a living room anymore. I had moved the furniture, pushed the couch against the wall, rolled up the rug. The hardwood floor stretched out like a small stage. The afternoon light poured through the windows, casting shadows that felt like spotlights. Claire looked around, visibly uncomfortable. Mom, what is this? I did not answer. I walked to the center of the room, pressed play on my phone, and the opening notes of The Dying Swan filled the cottage. I started to move, not the way I used to, not with the strength or grace of a 33-year-old body, but with something deeper, something that came from muscle memory and loss and 38 years of silence. I danced for 90 seconds, and then I stopped. Exactly where I had stopped the first time, exactly where I shattered my foot at 38 to give birth to Clare. I stood there, breathing hard, my knees trembling, and I looked at them both. "This is where I broke. This is where I left the stage for you. Do you remember what you said when I told you I used to be a dancer?" Michael shifted, looked at the floor. Claire said nothing. "I told you I was a prima ballerina, that I danced at Lincoln Center, that I gave it up to raise you. And you laughed. You said that sounded boring. That ballet was for little girls in tutus." Claire's face went pale. I walked to the dining table, pulled out a folder, opened it. Inside were receipts, scholarship letters, photos of young girls in leotards, standing on stages I would never stand on again. For 15 years, I have anonymously funded ballet scholarships for single mothers' daughters, girls who could not afford lessons, girls who had talent but no opportunity, girls like me. I slid one letter toward Claire. "There was one with your name on it, when you were 14, when you quit ballet after 6 months because you said it was too hard. I saved it, just in case you ever came back." Claire stared at the letter, her hands shaking. "You never came back." The room was silent, except for the sound of waves crashing outside. I looked at both of them. At these two people I had bled for, sacrificed for, disappeared for, and I gave them an ultimatum. "One of you dances 100 hours with me, not to fix us, not to apologize, but to learn what it feels like to be left bleeding on the floor while everyone else walks away." Michael looked at Claire. Claire looked at me. And then Michael spoke. "I will do it." Claire stood up, her chair scraping against the floor. "This is insane. You are punishing us for living our own lives." I shook my head. "No. I am teaching you what it cost for you to have them." Claire walked out, the door slammed behind her. Michael stayed. Every morning now, we rehearse. Dawn light spilling through the windows, my body moving in ways it has not moved in years. Michael stumbling through steps he never learned, sweating, struggling, bleeding from blisters he does not know how to treat. And every morning, Claire sits in her car outside, watching through the glass door. She has not knocked, has not stepped inside, but she has not driven away either. I raised 2 children. They raised the knife. I just decided when to turn around. For 6 weeks, Michael showed up every morning. We danced in silence. He bled through his socks. He learned what sacrifice felt like in his tendons, in his lungs, in the way his body screamed for mercy and got none. Claire never came inside, but she watched, every single day, sitting in her car, staring through the glass like a ghost haunting her own past. And then the letter arrived. American Youth Ballet Competition. New York City. 3 days in May. They wanted me as head judge, my first public appearance in 40 years. I almost said no, almost threw the letter away. But then I thought about those girls, the ones who would never get a chance unless someone who understood the cost sat in that chair and told the truth. I said yes. I told Michael. He smiled, said he was proud of me. I told Claire through a text message. She did not respond. 2 weeks later, I got another text. This one from Claire. "Sophie is competing. Thought you should know." Sophie, my granddaughter. Claire's oldest daughter, 12 years old. I had seen her maybe 4 times in her entire life. Birthday parties where I stood in the corner holding a glass of wine no one poured for me. Holidays where Claire made excuses about why I could not stay for dinner. I stared at that text for 10 minutes, and then I understood. This was not about Sophie. This was about Claire. This was her raising the knife one more time, showing me up, proving that she could create a dancer better than I ever was, that she could succeed where I had failed. I showed up to the competition on a Friday morning. The theater was packed. Parents, teachers, scouts from companies across the country. I sat in the center of the judges' panel. A nameplate in front of me, Elizabeth Harris, former principal dancer, American Ballet Theater. People whispered, pointed, took photos. I had not been seen in public like this since 1987. I was a ghost made flesh, a legend they thought was dead. The first day went smoothly. Talented girls, some brilliant, some struggling. I scored them fairly, wrote notes that would help them grow. And then, Sophie took the stage. She was good. Not great, not terrible. Technically sound, but emotionally empty. She moved like someone who had been trained by fear, not passion. Every step precise, every turn calculated. Nothing alive behind her eyes. I watched her dance a variation from Giselle, the same role I had danced at Lincoln Center 40 years ago, and all I saw was Clare. Not as she was, but as she could have been if she had not quit at 16. Sophie finished. The audience clapped. Clare stood up in the third row, beaming like her daughter had just won an Oscar. I wrote my score. 7.2 out of 10. The number flashed on the screen. The room went silent. Clare's face turned white, then red, then something darker. She stood up, her voice cutting through the theater like a blade. "Are you kidding me? That is my daughter, your granddaughter, and you give her a 7. I looked at her, did not flinch. I gave her what she earned. Clare stepped into the aisle, her hands shaking. "You are jealous. You have always been jealous. You could not stand that I quit, that I chose a real life over your obsession, and now you punish my daughter for it." The audience shifted, uncomfortable. Security started moving toward the aisle. I stood up, pulled out my phone, connected it to the theater's projector, and I played the footage. 30 years old, grainy, shot on a camcorder in our old living room in Stamford. 16-year-old Clare, screaming at me, throwing her ballet shoes across the room. "I hate this. I hate you. You are too controlling. You only care about ballet. You never let me be myself." And then teenage Clare storming out, slamming the door so hard the frame cracked. The footage ended. The theater was silent. I looked at Clare, at her face crumbling in real time. That girl on stage today, she is not Sophie. She is the ghost of your abandoned dreams. You put her in ballet, not because she loves it, but because you need to prove you were right to quit. That you could have been great if you had stayed. Clare's mouth opened, nothing came out. But Sophie does not love it. She is dancing for you, not for herself, and that is why she got a 7.2. Clare sat down, her whole body shaking. Sophie standing frozen at the edge of the stage, tears streaming down her face. Finals night was Sunday. The theater was sold out. The top 5 dancers performed solos. The judges scored them live. The winner was a 14-year-old girl named Jasmine, black, from the South Bronx, single mother working 2 jobs to pay for lessons, talent that made my chest tighten, passion that filled every corner of that stage. I stood up, held the trophy, and spoke into the microphone. "This prize comes with a full scholarship to the American Youth Ballet Conservatory, but tonight I am also announcing the creation of the Harris Legacy Fund. Starting next year, we will provide 5 full scholarships annually to young dancers from low-income families." The audience erupted, standing ovation, cameras flashing. I looked at Clare, at Michael, at Sophie sitting between them, still crying. "This fund will never carry the name of anyone in my family. It will carry only the names of those who bleed for the art, not for approval, not for their parents, but for themselves." I handed Jasmine the trophy. She sobbed into my shoulder, whispered, "Thank you." I walked off stage. The applause was deafening, louder than anything I had heard in 40 years. And then I heard footsteps behind me. Michael, running, calling my name. "Mom, wait, please." I stopped, turned. He was out of breath, his eyes red. "I choose you. I choose what you taught me. I am sorry it took me this long." I nodded, said nothing, kept walking. Behind us, in the emptying auditorium, Clare sat holding Sophie, both of them frozen, both of them crying. The doors closed, and I did not look back to see who walked through them next. There's a fairy tale about shoes that never stop dancing until the dancer dies. I decided to put those shoes on my children. 3 days after the competition, I was cleaning out the garage at the cottage, boxing up old rehearsal clothes, throwing away programs from performances that no longer mattered. And then I found them, my red point shoes. Not the pretty ones you see in store windows. Not the pristine satin slippers girls dream about. These were the real ones. The ones I wore during my final performance at Lincoln Center. October 1987, the night I danced Odette for the last time. They were stained, dark brown patches where the blood had soaked through, the satin torn at the toes, the ribbons frayed and knotted. They looked like something that should have been thrown away 38 years ago. But I had kept them, hidden them, could not let them go. I held them in my hands, felt the weight of everything they represented. Every sacrifice, every broken bone, every dream I had danced into existence and then walked away from. And then I did something I cannot fully explain. I separated them. One shoe for Michael, one for Clare. I wrapped each one in tissue paper, placed them in small boxes, wrote the same note for both. Put them on and come home, or never come back. I mailed them on a Tuesday morning, did not tell them I was sending anything, did not prepare them, just dropped the boxes in the mail and waited. Michael called first. His voice shaking. "Mom, what is this? Are you okay?" I did not answer the question. "Did you put them on?" Silence. "Mom, these are covered in blood." "I know. Did you put them on?" He hung up. Clare called an hour later, angrier, more frightened. "What the hell is wrong with you? You sent me a blood-stained shoe with a note that sounds like a suicide letter. Michael thinks you have lost your mind." I smiled. "Tell him to meet you at the cottage on Saturday. Noon. Both of you." "Clare, this is not funny." I hung up. Saturday came. They both showed up. I could see it in their faces. The fear, the confusion, the certainty that I had finally cracked. That grief and age had broken something inside me that could not be fixed. I led them to the garage. They stopped in the doorway. The garage was empty. No car, no boxes, no tools. Just a cleared concrete floor. A single spotlight rigged from the ceiling. A small speaker system set up in the corner. And in the center of the floor, taped down with white gaffer tape, a makeshift stage, 15 feet by 15 feet. "Mom, what is this?" I walked to the center of the stage, pressed play on my phone. The opening notes of the Red Shoes Ballet filled the garage. "Put them on." Michael looked at Clare. Clare looked at me. "You are insane." I turned up the volume. "Put them on, or leave. Those are your only two options." Michael picked up his shoe, stared at it. Then slowly, terrified, he slipped off his loafer and slid his foot inside. It did not fit. It was a woman's shoe, size 6. His foot was a men's 10, but he forced it on anyway, wincing. His toes crushed, his heel hanging off the back. Clare shook her head. "I am not doing this." "Then leave." She stood there, frozen. And then, furious, she grabbed the other shoe and jammed it onto her foot. It fit better. She had my feet. Long. Narrow. Dancer's feet she had spent her whole life pretending she did not have. Now dance. We moved. The three of us. I led. They stumbled behind me. Michael could barely walk. Clare moved stiffly, her body remembering steps she had buried decades ago. I controlled the music, started slow, then faster, then faster. The tempo climbed. The memories cut deeper. I spun. They tried to follow. Michael tripped, caught himself, his face red, sweating. Clare was crying. Still moving. But crying. I increased the tempo again. The music frantic now. Violent. The kind of pace that breaks bodies. That snaps tendons. That makes your lungs scream for air that will not come. Claire screamed. Stop. Stop the music. Are you trying to kill us? I stopped. The silence was deafening. I walked to the center of the stage, looked at both of them, at their heaving chests, at their bleeding feet, at the terror in their eyes. No, I just want you to know what it feels like when your feet bleed and nobody claps. Michael collapsed to his knees, still wearing the shoe, still crying. Claire stood there, her whole body shaking. I knelt down, carefully removed the shoe from Michael's foot, then walked to Claire and removed hers. I placed both shoes on the floor between us, the blood on the satin dark and old, the ribbons tangled like veins. You're free now. Stay or leave. It's your choice. Not mine, not obligation, not guilt, just choice. Michael reached for the shoes, clutched them to his chest like a child holding a blanket, his shoulders shaking, his voice broken. I am so sorry. I am so sorry. I looked at Claire. She stared at the shoes, at me, at her brother crumpled on the floor. And then she walked out. Did not say a word, did not look back, just walked through the garage door and disappeared. I heard her car start, heard the gravel crunch under the tires, heard the engine fade into the distance. Michael stayed on the floor, holding the shoes, crying. I walked back to the center of the stage, stood under the spotlight, alone. The music had stopped. The garage was silent, except for Michael's sobs. And for the first time in 38 years, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. Every dancer knows the hardest step is the exit. I just never thought I would have to teach it to my own children. The invitation arrived 6 weeks after the garage. 6 weeks of silence from Claire. 6 weeks of Michael visiting every Sunday, sitting on my porch, saying nothing, just being there. Lincoln Center, a tribute gala, honoring my career. One night only, October 12th. The same theater where I had danced my final performance 38 years ago. They wanted me to perform a solo, 5 minutes, my choice of choreography. I stared at that invitation for 3 days, held it in my hands like a grenade I was not sure I wanted to throw, and then I called the director. I will do it. But I have 2 conditions. The first condition was simple. Every cent raised from ticket sales would go directly to the Harris Legacy Fund. No exceptions, no board cuts, no administrative fees. Every dollar to girls who would never see Lincoln Center otherwise. The second condition was more complicated. I need 2 seats. Last row. Nosebleed section. Section Z. Seats 101 and 102. The director paused. Miss Harris, we can put you anywhere. Front row, box seats, VIP lounge. I know. I want the worst seats in the house. He did not argue. I mailed the tickets to Michael and Claire 3 weeks before the performance. No note, no explanation. Just 2 tickets in an envelope with my name printed on the return address. Michael called immediately. Mom, these seats are terrible. Let me buy better ones. No. Those are your seats. Show up or do not. But those are the only tickets you get. He showed up. Claire did not call, did not text. I had no idea if she would come. The night of the gala arrived. October 12th. Cold, crisp. The kind of autumn night in New York that smells like possibility and endings. I stood backstage at Lincoln Center for the first time in 38 years. The same dressing room, the same mirror, the same ghost staring back at me. I was 71. My knees ached. My feet were scarred and bent from decades of abuse. My body was not what it used to be. But I could still dance. And tonight, I would. The theater filled. 2,800 seats. Sold out. People who remembered my name. People who had watched me fly across this stage when I was young and unstoppable. I peeked through the curtain, Scanned the audience. Found section Z, last row, nosebleed seats. Michael was there, sitting alone, staring at the stage, his face tight with something I could not read from this distance. The seat next to him was empty. Clare had not come. The lights dimmed. The announcer spoke. "Tonight, we honor Elizabeth Harris, prima ballerina, legend. A woman who gave everything to this stage and then walked away to give everything to her family. Tonight she returns, one final time." The applause was deafening. I walked onto the stage. The spotlight hit me, and for 5 seconds I could not breathe. I was home. The music started. The Dying Swan. The same piece I had danced 38 years ago. The same choreography, the same notes that had once made me feel invincible. I moved, slower now, but with something deeper, something earned. Every step a memory, every turn a scar. And then, 90 seconds in, I froze. The music continued. The audience shifted, confused. I walked to the microphone at the edge of the stage, looked directly at section Z, at Michael sitting in the last row, at the empty seat beside him. This is the last time I dance for people who never showed up. The theater went silent. You could hear someone cough 3 rows back. I gestured to the wings. The house lights came up, every face visible now. 40 years ago, I walked off this stage to raise 2 children. I sold my engagement ring to pay for college. I turned down tours to sit in hospital rooms. I disappeared so they could have everything. My voice echoed through the theater. And tonight I am here to tell you that the greatest performance of my life was not on this stage. It was not in Paris or San Francisco or any theater you have ever heard of. I paused. It was choosing myself, finally, at 71 years old. I pulled a paper from my pocket, unfolded it. This gala has raised $480,000. My house in Guilford sold last week for $620,000. That is $1.1 million going directly to the Harris Legacy Fund. Scholarships for girls who cannot afford lessons, who have talent but no opportunity, who deserve a chance I almost never got. The audience erupted, standing ovation. I held up my hand. And I am leaving New York, tonight, forever. I am done performing for people who only show up when it is convenient. Michael stood up in section Z, his voice cracking. "Mom, please, don't go." He ran. Down the aisle, sprinting toward the stage, people turning, watching, gasping. He reached the front, tears streaming down his face. "I am sorry. I am here. I have been here. Please do not leave." I looked at him, at this man I had raised, who had finally woken up, who had chosen to run toward me instead of away. And then I looked at section Z, at the empty seat beside his. Clare had not come, had not even tried. I turned back to Michael, smiled, said nothing. I bowed, low, deep, the way I had been taught 50 years ago, the way you bow when you mean it. The applause was thunder, people screaming my name, crying, standing. I walked off stage, into the wings, into the darkness beyond the lights, and I disappeared. 1 year later, a small coastal town in Maine has a new ballet teacher. She is 72. No one knows her name. She teaches free classes to anyone who wants to learn. The studio is above a coffee shop. It smells like salt air and second chances. Every Monday, flowers arrive. No note, just white roses. The teacher puts them in a vase by the window and never asks who sent them. In Chicago, Clare Harris has deleted her social media, changed her phone number. No one has seen her in 12 months. Some exits are final, and some dancers never stop moving. If this story moved you, if you have ever sacrificed everything for someone who never noticed, leave a comment below. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, the hardest step is choosing yourself, but it is also the one that sets you free.